Hello, I'm Michael Tabb. I am your course director for character creation and development, as well as writing for film and animation, which is screenwriting, single story screenwriting. It's not episodic. Um, Today on our show, we have some very special guests. No, I'm kidding. Um, we're going to just go through and give everybody a chance to ask questions from everything they've reviewed so far in the class. Um, I do not mute anybody's microphone, just so you know, because I want people to be able to chime in. I want you to have a classroom experience. But if you are not speaking and have no interest in speaking at the moment, you may mute yourself so that we can limit the background noise. If too many microphones are open, there becomes sound loops where I'm speaking on this end, it's going through your speaker, and it coming back in through the voice thing on yours, and then all of a sudden everything starts looping, and we have to start the whole session over. So keep your microphones muted for yourself unless you want to speak, and when you want to speak, please feel free to contribute or jump in at any time. And let's do this. All right. So, of course, the way this has to start, because the whole thing is about this, is does anybody have any questions so far? And I will give everybody a moment to think about that while I do the cha cha.
Excuse me.
Yes.
Good morning. I'm Jackie Moore. Um,
Good morning, Ms.
about this, I'm sorry, about this work group thing, I don't, it, trying to get three people, I don't know if my class has enough multiples of three,
Oh,
because
you're
everyone
talking
can do
about
three.
for group writing for
Uh,
the groups.
character, character creation and development.
Sure. You don't have to do anything in groups of three in my class.
Okay.
In my class, the way we do the work groups is that everybody posts something on Wednesday night. They
Mm-hmm.
post their work for the week on Wednesday,
Mm-hmm.
and then after Wednesday night, preferably by Thursday morning, everybody has gone on and sometime in Thursday morning and picked dibs on any three students they want. And
Okay.
if somebody has already three people who've called dibs, you cannot pick that student. That way,
Okay.
it all spreads out, and everybody gets three different. And then you could, if you want to work with one student on one script the whole time, then you can do
Okay.
that. And if you
Okay.
want to work with different students and try different things and see what other people are working on, you have a chance to do that as well. I mean, sometimes I'll
Oh,
say try somebody that you haven't done
okay.
before just to. I think it's good to constantly work with different people, which is why I don't demand a group setting, a specific group,
Okay.
because
Okay.
the way people succeed in Hollywood is through who you know. You know,
Okay.
everything's about relationships. So the
Right.
best thing I can do for you is put you in a situation where you are in a position to make many relationships with many of your fellow students. And that's much harder in this program because we're not sharing a classroom and spending physical time together. So the least I can do is make it so that you're giving anybody you want feedback and doing it that way.
Okay. That explains. Thank you.
Of course, believe me, when I do everything for some very specific reason, it may not be obvious to everybody, but I overthink everything. That's kind of who I am.
Okay.
Um,
Thank you.
you bet. Anybody else have any questions, or do you have another question?
Right now, I'm good.
Fabulous, Miss Moore.
So this is John. I just wanted to kind of elaborate on that a little bit, if I can.
Sure, Mr.
That
Moore.
that you call dibs, and if you reach three, then you can move on to the next person, and you don't actually start until dibs have been called.
That's
Correct?
right. You do not give feedback until you have already marked that person that you have dibs, and you are one of the first three people to call dibs on that specific posting.
But you can respond in addition to the three dibs as long as you pick three other people. Um,
You can do more
Meaning you
dibs.
can
Yes,
give
you can do more, but you only three will count. But
right,
do yourself a favor and do the three dibs first. Here's what
right.
I don't want to see happening: is that everybody wants to give everybody feedback so that everybody gets mediocre feedback. I'd rather you give only three people feedback and give some really detailed, great ideas and advice, and spend some real time helping them. You know what I mean? People rush through giving people feedback, and that feedback kind of skims the surface of what you're capable of helping them with, as opposed to in this class, you're trying to become professional writers, and your notes to fellow writers should not be skimming the surface. You are trying to be better, more well educated, and be able to give a deeper level of input on writing than just somebody who reads and throws a few cracks in there and has some ideas and shares the way you do it. That's not going to help the other person. What's going to help the other person is if you take everything you've learned, you look at the lessons, you look at what premise is, like if you're in the first class, character creation and development that I teach, and you really study what makes a premise and what makes a premise unviable, and you're able to catch those mistakes in others and catch it for them by Friday when you post your responses, your dibs, your responses on their work, so that they don't make that mistake on Sunday when they turn it into me. It's not enough to say, "Hey, I really like that. That sounds really cool." But if you don't think it through, and the person's premise had a negative word in it, like "not," then whether you liked it or not didn't matter, because they're going to get marked off because they didn't follow the rules. Because a premise is about something that is a solution, not something that's not a solution.
Right.
So make sure
Very good.
that you really give detailed notes on 3. And then if you want to do more, do more. But get 3 really good. And matter of fact, do anyone you mark up, do everybody really good. You don't have to do everybody, just do at least 3. Like I said, I do everything for a reason.
Hi, Professor. This is Taylor.
Hi, Taylor. How are you today?
Hi, good. I just want to let you know that I'm a woman, not a man.
You're what?
A woman. You said Mr. Johnson, but it's
Oh,
okay. It's totally fine. We make mistakes. We're human.
you
My
know,
quick
we
question.
are. We are.
Yeah, we are.
Sorry, Ms.
my
Johnson.
question.
Allow me
My
to
question.
allow me to apologize.
No. You're totally fine. My question is, could you elaborate a little bit more on the visual brainstorming? I think I have the concept of it from the examples you gave, but just a little bit more into detail about how those are actually written.
Sure. After you come up with a premise, you're going to pick the best genre to through which to explore that premise, and then you're going to do a brainstorm of physical, visual images, not pictures. You're not cutting and pasting pictures from the internet. Because we paint
Okay.
pictures with our words. So you're going to write physical images or things that you associate with that genre, so that you're starting to visualize the way you're going to tell that story.
Okay.
So if you choose science fiction, you may say outer space. You may say technological weaponry that fires lasers all the way through space and blasts through entire planets.
Okay.
You come up with visual things that can happen in that kind of a movie. You do not have to use any of your brainstorm in your actual script. The whole
Okay.
idea of the brainstorm, so don't worry about whether it applies to your story or not, or whether it applies to your premise or not. Has nothing to do with it. It has to
Okay.
do getting your head wrapped around what the physical parameters are that you're dealing with when selecting that genre. And you want to
Oh,
keep those things in mind when you write.
okay. Thank you so very much.
You're very welcome, Ms. Taylor. Ms. Johnson.
Yes.
All right. I have a question
So,
here written out. With 1 second, somebody wrote something. Do you mind if local students come to campus to meet and chat in person? Absolutely not. Of course, I want you to come and meet me. Come shake my hand. Let's talk shop. Let's do this job. Absolutely. I'm not on campus today. The next time I'm on campus now is Friday. I'm there for graduation in the morning. If you want to come by tomorrow on Friday, that would be great. Um, and otherwise, I'll be on campus 3 days a week for sure. So just let me know when you're around. If you're not available Friday, we'll set something up for next week. Okay, somebody else had a question.
no, I was going to bring in Laura's question. So
Oh, well,
you
that was
made me
very
think.
nice of you. Very considerate. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Does anybody else have any questions? Am I over chipper? I think I'm overcompensating. I think I'm trying too hard here. Um, Sorry if my voice is too much right now. Um, I'm a cerebral guy, and I want you guys to feel really welcome here. I know that my work and the class is really tough, and things are worded strong. But I want you to know that I am much more enthusiastic about helping you than you may think. But I am going to be tough because that's how you become a better writer than me one day. And that's what I'm hoping happens for all of you. All right. Too much Red Bull, absolutely. I like someone that is chipper. Oh, thank you. I try to be. Agreed. Okay, perfect. All right, so we're fine. We're good. Fabulous. Nothing. All right. Does the assignment this week require 3 premise ideas or 1? Okay, so that depends on what class you're in. In character creation and development, what we're doing is we're learning how to create characters. And when learning how to create a really great 3-dimensional character, you create characters specifically to serve purposes in your story. So we start with purpose, and then we're going to design all the characters stemming from that purpose to a character, and then fill in everything the other characters have to do around the character that's going to prove your purpose, that's going to prove your premise. So to make sure you pick a good premise, I give you a chance I want you to at least try to create 3 different premises so that we can make sure we find at least one that works. Or you may find that you create 3 fabulous premises and be able to develop 3 different films down the road from them, or 100. So you can use the same premise for multiple films. I've done it and just take the same premise and then put it in a different genre. And then I can tell that story in a completely different way, and nobody can even tell it's the same thing I'm saying. But I only pick a premise if it's something that means the world to me and is hugely important to the state of human affairs. And so sometimes that's worth more than one movie if that state of human affairs has not yet been fixed in our world, and things don't change that fast. So it's usually still applicable. All right. What else? So in the first class, you do 3 at least. In the second class, now most people will take their ideas from the first class. You're going to wind up picking 1 premise in character creation and development and building all your characters out of that. When you come back to writing for film and animation, you may use a premise you used in CCD, or you will create new ones also. So, but by Wednesday, in writing for film and animation, all the students are posting 3 potential premise um, to develop into a full singular story, not an episodic story, a singular beginning, middle, and end story, which means you do not label the acts in the actual script. Just a note to people who are thinking about or starting to play with writing the actual script itself, even though you'd be way ahead of schedule. We don't label acts in single story telling paradigms and script formatting. So, but on Wednesday, you'll post at least 3 and develop them out so that everybody can you can get some feedback from people on the 3 different ideas you have, which is great. I love feedback is the key to helping us. Yes, you want to write what you want to write, but you also want to know what other people are thinking when they're reading what you're writing, because it gives you a sense of how it's being perceived, which is the important thing. Because if your idea is not coming across to people, then that's something you need to know right away. You don't have to take people's creative notes if they give you ideas, because they may not work for what it is you're trying to create. But it's great to know what they're thinking and what your work is getting them to think, so that you can make adjustments if needed to convey the thought that you meant for them to get from it. So on Friday, people will give you feedback. And then on Sunday, in writing for film and animation, you will only post the one that you have selected to move forward with in the class and write a 6 to 10 page single story script from. And hopefully one day you will also expand that story and develop such a cool idea for a story that you wish to expand it into a full feature film screenplay. Or a television show, whatever you want to do. But the idea is we're creating a single story with a beginning, middle, and end in that class. And you pick one by the end of the week, which is what I read. But you do create 3 in both by Wednesday. And then you turn in 3 in the first one. Okay, that was a very long and complicated answer to what I think was a much simpler question. But I think I was clear, which was the point, which is what I try to be. Okay, does anybody else have any questions or have another question? Oh, wait, do they have to be new ideas, or can you use something from another course? Yes, you can use something from another course, but make sure that whatever you use from the other course applies to the rules demanded from this course. So if you wrote a premise and you used it in another course and you want to use it in this course, that's fine. Just make sure that it obeys all the rules that we demand in this class for premise. And continue to make your work better with every draft. If you've taken this class before and you're taking it again for whatever reason, yes, you can use the same ideas, but just make sure you've made the changes that were required of you from my notes last time. Do they have to be new ideas? No. Okay, we covered that already. Does anybody else have any other questions?
Just one quick question, one more time, Professor. This is Taylor.
There's no
On the on the McGraw-Hill adaptive learning module,
yes.
is there a certain percentage that you wanted us to reach to upload?
10% more of what you've done. So if you are in character creation and development, you are in your second class of doing it, I believe. So
Yes,
it would be 20% total. If you are in writing for film and animation, which is the seventh class, you would need to have 60 to 70% done.
Okay, yes, sir. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
I've got a quick question. This is Matt Morgan.
Hi, Matt.
You mentioned, hi, thank you. You mentioned working on projects in perpetuity after our time at Full Sail.
Yes.
What are your positions, or perhaps the university's positions, on intellectual property, given that we've had collaboration with our instructors, feedback from peers, if we continue working on something post?
The writer, well, there's weird language in everything, in every kind of paper that is signed for every kind of agreement. The question is what's enforceable and what's not. Here's the way I see it, quite frankly. I never, ever give somebody else an idea that I am not giving them. It's yours. If I give you an idea for something and you use it, that makes me feel good about myself, and I have no need or ownership of it. The whole point of giving it to you is to help you make your version better. It's still your script. Those notes are based on your idea, and nobody should try to take ownership of your idea. The whole idea of giving back to writers is that we help each other with the material that we are working on, not that we take ownership of someone else's. So I encourage all of you to give completely and freely of your ideas and notes to your fellow students, and that you do not try to lay claim to anything. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous to say, I gave you a note, therefore your script is partially mine, or I gave you a better line, so I've written part of your dialogue, so that means the script. No, if you don't want to share the idea, then don't share the idea. But if you don't share the idea and you don't give good feedback and stuff, I'm not going to grade you well. So it's a double-O short. It's a catch-22. Give generously to each other, and don't worry about credit. Worry about your story, and that's what you should do.
Thank you so much.
You bet.
Writer karma is real.
Yes. Hello?
Yes, I was just saying that writer karma is real. So
yeah,
be open to giving and being open to receiving as well.
That's right. And here's the funny thing about feedback and notes, and that is sometimes somebody will give you a note that actually sounds really cool, and you actually want to use it. And then you'll realize, the smarter you get about story, the more you realize it's about executing the story, is you'll have to make a choice. And that is that if you use that really interesting idea, it does not fit the story that you're trying to tell. So you have to decide whether you would rather tell that other story or the story you're telling. And a lot of the time, somebody gives you a great idea you actually can't use even if you wanted to, because it doesn't fit the statement you're trying to make or the story you're trying to tell. So one of the hardest things to do when you're getting feedback is to turn down and not utilize good notes from people, good ideas, cool things. It's hard. It's hard to say, oh, that would be so cool. But wait, that would make the film about this, and my film is actually about this, so it doesn't fit. Dang it. So, and then other times people will give you notes that don't fit at all. And the way you look at that is you say, what made them say that, and why are they saying it? Sometimes it's not necessarily the note that you're given that is what's important. It's why they're saying it. This is an example I always use. And that is that, I once got a note that said you should kill this character on page 45, this certain character. And I needed that character for the end of the film where the whole ending falls apart. And what they were saying was the tension was so low at that point, and they weren't feeling the gravity or the stakes or the conflict of the movie anymore. And so the script was feeling, I hate to say it, a tad boring. It wasn't as exciting as it should have been. I needed to get some real danger into the script by that point again, so that the audience felt riveted again. So the note wasn't really kill this character on page 45. It was the stakes have gotten really low here. You're in the middle of the second act. They need to keep building. Take it up a notch, Tabbo. So just remember, the notes aren't always what they say on the surface. Look deeply at them. Ask them, where is the note coming from? And another thing I'll tell you about getting notes, because this is something you have to learn when you get notes as a professional writer, and that is that never reject a note out of hand, and never tell anybody they gave you a bad note, and never tell anybody you didn't like their notes or that you're not using them. Matter of fact, I always make everybody who gives me notes feel like they changed my script and made it better, even if they didn't do that much, because the truth is that somebody may not give you the best notes on this draft, but that same person who didn't really get this draft may give you notes on another draft of another script, and they'll wind up giving you the best notes on the whole draft. So make people feel good about giving you notes, keeping people in your court who you appreciate and who like being appreciated for bringing artistic value and ideas to you for free is worth having in your life. So appreciate the notes. Don't reject the notes. Give every note, no matter how ridiculous it seems, its due consideration, and ask yourself, where did that come from? Why are they thinking that? And what am I not delivering at that moment in the script where they were saying I should do this or where I shouldn't do that? What is it that made them do that? Because what am I not doing that I meant to be doing with this scene that would have cleared that up? Even a bad note has good ramifications. The only time you ask a question when receiving notes is when you need clarity on what the note means. Never to question its validity, never to question the person and their motives for giving you the note. None of that matters. Everybody who gives you notes is your best frickin' friend in the world. Because believe me, the longer you go in this business, the more you're going to realize very few people like to actually read. It's astounding people get into this business and work on the side of the business where it's their job to read scripts, and the truth is they want to read as little as possible. And they'll stick to the best scripts and the best writers they know, and then they pass off the other ones to other people like readers and story analysts, which I had to be for a couple of years for a production company at Warner Brothers, which taught me a lot. So when you have people in your life who like to read and comrades who are writers who can share feedback and give back and forth with, cherish those relationships because they're harder to find when you get out of college. All right. Any questions? Any more questions? Okay. Well, if those are the questions, I'm now going to start breaking down what we are doing for the homework. As I've said earlier, we do the first draft on Wednesdays. We give each other feedback, 3 people's feedback on Friday. The only class this changes, we have a 4-week class every time. In writing for film and animation in week 3, the structure is different. Other than that, it sticks to this structure, okay? So first draft on Wednesday, feedback on Friday, final submission on Sunday to me, where I grade what it is you worked on and rewrote and developed all week. Okay, you get things done. You have a week to do to do your assignment and polish it. I get 1 week to do everybody's. So I will try to have everything to you by the following Sunday. I actually try to do it by Friday, but with the size of these classes this week, I don't know if I'm going to be able to, but I'm going to try. And then if I turn in my submission to you late, my feedback late, email me and ask me if you need a chance to to apply that feedback before you turn it in again. And if you want to resubmit it later that day, after I give you feedback, if it's already past the deadline for the next one, I'll let you redo your assignment so I don't count it. But just make sure you hit me up if you want an extended deadline until after you have my feedback. Hit me up for that before I start grading your work, because you will notice I work really hard on my grading. You'll find out. I try to be very specific. All right. After that, so we have everybody's doing an assignment that's due on Sunday, and I'll have until the following Sunday to get you back my notes as fast as I can. What else do I need to tell you? Oh, okay. So in character creation and development, you're gonna do 3 premise. Under each one of the premise, you are going to pick one or as many as 2 genres. That's it. Never more than 2. Ever, 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 ever. Okay? Yes, you may have some comedy in there. There may be some funny lines. But if it's not a comedy, a pure, real, focused on comedy movie, that's not the genre. You just have a sense of humor. There's a difference. So pick one genre, maybe 2. And for each time you pick a genre, you have to do 40 new images for your brainstorm on that genre. So if you decide to do, your first idea is sci-fi fantasy, then you have to do, which are different genres, everybody, you have to do 40 images for fantasy and 40 for sci-fi. And then if your second idea also is sci-fi fantasy, you now have to do 80 for each. And then if the last one is a comedy, you'll do 40 comedy, and if it's comedy sci-fi, 40 comedy. Then you'll have 40 comedy, and you'll have another 40 sci-fi to add if it's a comedy sci-fi. Which I don't know if that'll work, but it's tough. But you can do it. I saw Spaceballs. That was pretty funny. If you love Star Wars, thank you, Mel Brooks, for making me laugh. Okay, so and that's how it works. And you only have to do three of those each. But you may. Oh, I love Galaxy Quest. Absolutely, Mr. Hamilton. Galaxy Quest is one of the best sci-fi comedies for anybody, whether or not you loved Star Trek or not. If you loved Star Trek, even more so. Okay, so then there's the other class, which is writing for film and animation. And if you thought character was tough, you got a lot. You got a tough week ahead, tough class ahead, and you're going to learn so much. So in week 1, you're developing 3 ideas and picking one. Doing all the work you did in character creation, the whole class, picking characters, defining how they relate to each other, putting together a log line, and defining them, and premise and brainstorms, and you have 120 images per genre you choose. You're not at 40 anymore. You're really having to picture the genre, really going in, putting in the overtime there for the one you choose, and you have to do that by Friday. By Wednesday, actually, to post it, and then Friday you'll give each other feedback, and then on Sunday you'll turn in the one script idea with all the stuff you did in character creation class. Like if you wind up using the same idea that you used in character creation class, it will not be the same, because I guarantee you I gave you notes, and those notes need to be applied so that everything is truly ready on Sunday, because next week you start outlining and hitting structure, and we have to hit the ground running in 3-act structure, because by the following week, week 3, you're writing a full script. Boom. That's where we're going. And then in the 4th week, we're going to actually edit that script so that you have something that's showable for your portfolio by the end of the program. All right. So does anybody have any questions on the homework or anything else? Yes. Yes. Mr. Turnpaw. Is it Turnpaw? I hope that's correct. Yes, this is going to be a blast. You're going to have fun. Your imagination is going to run free. You're going to realize there's logic to the insanity and chaos of creation. And those two things are going to play together in your mind. I always call writing, it's chaos math. You know how the chaos theory that Jeff Goldblum discusses in Jurassic Park, how, you can put a droplet of water in the hand, it can go this way this time and that way that time, how things you can't predict what's going to happen. Life, yes, life finds a way. All right, Turnpaw gets it. You're all going to get it. But at the end of the story, you can go back and crunch all the numbers and look at the whole story, and it all makes perfect mathematical sense. That's storytelling. You can go in all these directions, but in the end, it still has to make sense, has to say something. The events have to make sense that follow each other. So you can go in crazy ways people never thought, but then when you look at the end of the story and you go and you look back, wow, that made sense, and it says something. That is great storytelling, and we're going to have a lot of fun doing it in this classes. All right. Any last questions before we finish for today?
What's the title of your new script?
I hate titles. I figure the marketing department is going to do it. The script I just turned into producers a week and a half ago, which is a drama that was Finding Resilience. The TV show I just wrote for Sean Daniel, who produces The Expanse and produced all the Mummy movies and Tombstone. That's called Sawyer and Finn. It's a modern day. It's not modern day. It's a updated take on Tom Sawyer and Huckleberry Finn during the Civil War, set in the period.
Nice.
As grown-ups. So they've grown up, and that's that one. That's Sawyer and Finn. And then the one I'm working on right now I'm calling it The Curse of Halloween, which is, it's a lousy title. I'm not a fan of titles. I figure the marketing department, if they get made these projects, they'll change them and they'll save my ass.
Right.
The other one, and the other script I just finished this year, is called The Dead Men, and that's a supernatural crime story in the vein of, and the style of films like Dark City, and kind of like a crime story. It's kind of like, it takes place in like a comic booky reality world, and it's a lot of fun. The Curse of Michael Myers, Halloween 6, nice. So yeah, those are the projects that I have been working on for the last year. The one I'm working on right now, and I just yesterday started writing, and I'm on page 14. But no, I outlined it before that. I've been working on the development of the idea through this. I wrote a book called Pre-Writing Your Screenplay, a step-by-step guide to generating stories. That talks about my process for developing stories. You're learning a lot about it in my classes. But I wrote a book about it, and I take time going through the process of building the backdrop of my story, the backbone, before I start writing. And now I'm finally writing it. So I started writing yesterday, and when you figured out everything and you know who all the characters are, it just kind of pours out of you. And it's easy, and you're not going to make mistakes. If you've the biggest mistake most writers make, and the reason why they spend so much time rewriting, is because they didn't do the preliminary work figuring out what their story was going to be, who the characters are, and what the hell is the point of it all. And really sussing out the genre and making sure it perfectly fits what they're trying to say. If you don't do that preliminary work, which I try to teach you guys to do, you're just going to be rewriting that thing till you're blue in the face, because it won't come together right. You keep trying to make things come together that weren't designed to come together by intelligent design. So if any of you want to read it, by the way, they have it in the library, or they should have it in the library, a copy of my book. And for online students, you can request it, and it's free postage. They send you whatever you want to check out. And that includes movies. They have movies, a huge movie library in the Full Sail Library. And you can check out something, and then they include a self-addressed stamped envelope to send it back to them, whatever books you want to check out or whatever. Otherwise, you can find my book on Amazon, if that interests you. Nobody has to buy it. It's too new, though, so it's not a part of the curriculum yet. But I'm hoping they do adopt it, because it basically says everything I say in the class, only better, clearer, more well sussed out, and then so much more than what I have in the classes. It's I'm really proud of it. It was 20. That book was 20 years in the making, and I started writing it 20 freaking years ago. I kid you not, but I never sat down and just did it. And everybody for years told me, my friends always told me, dude, you have to write this down because it's different from everybody else, but it includes all the things you're expected to know from everybody else. So it's kind of like this hodgepodge of, I went to USC, NYU, and UCLA. I went to the top 3 schools for film in the country. And I took pieces from what I learned from everywhere and put them all into this method in an order that makes really logical sense so that you can build. You're all getting that in the class anyway for free. Or it's not for free. You're paying for your education. Definitely not for free. but you build from a premise. You build from your freaking heart because that's what makes a writer individual. And that's how you make your voice for yourself and a name for yourself is by having something to say. And that's what will get people's attention, especially if you've got something to say that they haven't heard before. So that's why premise is so important. And the hardest thing is that you start the classes with me with the hardest concept in all of screenwriting, which is understanding how to come up with a great premise and give your work meaning. And do not underestimate how difficult it is to do that. And I understand it's really difficult. So be diligent with yourself, be diligent on the rules and the things I explain about premise, because it's life changing and it's work changing. And I do believe it'll help you so much when you go to write your scripts, because when you know what you're saying, it's easier to come up with scenes in which to say it and which to argue against it. And story starts to write itself, and characters start to invent themselves because you need the characters to say those things and to surround them with situations that put them in the position to say those things. All right. Yes, I have no doubt that premise is one of the hardest things you've had to do. It was one of the hardest things that I ever had to do. And funny enough, the guy who taught me about premise now teaches at this university also in the bachelor's program. So it's pretty incredible. Some of the teachers that do work here at Full Sail, it's an amazing thing. It's pretty awesome because I took classes from him at USC, and now he's here. All right. I'll give everybody one last chance. Does anybody else have any questions? Because I'm not going to leave until I answer every question you have.
I've got one more for you. This is Matt again. Sorry,
Mr. Moore.
Regarding this, thank you. Regarding this first week, as we're focusing on premise and genre,
yes.
Do you have targeted readings from the Screenwriter's Bible that you recommend for us, or should we just start digesting that from the get-go?
I would say for these beginning, the Screenwriter's Bible is really about format. And in the last week of the class, you have to write a scene that it's the introduction to your protagonist in your script, no matter what genre, what medium of script you're going to write. So I have you start reading early on so that you're prepared, because it's a really big, long book. And so I want you to have the 4 weeks of time to look at it. But the things that are going to help you most in week 1 are, there are articles from Script Magazine that are linked from the actual lessons. Those are the things that are going to help you the most this week. So read the 2 articles on premise. One of them is actually chapter 1 of Laus Egri's book, The Art of Dramatic Writing, which is one of the greatest books, one of the first great books on creative writing since Aristotle and Joseph Campbell and Chris Vogler. So it's one of the greats. And his first chapter about premise is fabulous. It's the basis for premise as I use it. And then the other article is from Script Magazine on premise, and you need to read that one. And for genre, there are 2 Script Magazine articles that have to be read. One is Writing Gone Wrong, genre gone wrong, and the other talks about the history of genre and why it's so important and what the different genres are, and defines them for you so that you know exactly what it is you're doing. Because sometimes people get confused between like thriller and horror, and things like that. And I want to make sure that everything's clear for you, the reader. Page 52, Mr. Hamilton is saying, page 52 is referred to in the instructions concerning premise, I believe. Yes, but also remember, different people define premise as different things, so don't get confused. Some people think premise just means your idea for your movie, like a log line, or what is your story. Some people use the term improperly, and that's what it used to mean to some people, but to writers, it's a technical term. Just like you know, sometimes there's a word that means something out there in the real world, but when you're in a specific field of study, there's a very specific way to understand it that's very different from the general definition. Premise is one of those words. So make sure you're reading those two articles specifically on what a premise is, which is nothing short of the writer's personal opinion about the state of the world right now and what needs to change, or what is changing, or how it is. So look at those. It's an opinion, and it's an original opinion, and it needs to be 100% literal. You're no metaphors. Keep it real. Find something to say. And if you're having trouble figuring that out, ask yourself who in your life really ticks you off, and who bothers you, or who do you love so much and they keep screwing up their life over and over again because they won't learn the simple thing that they keep doing. Whether it's about, sometimes you have to cut bait with people you love. Sometimes you have to. I'm a recent victim of divorce, so there's a lot of messages I could write about what I learned when I got to that place and what happened, and the sadness and the horror of what happens with relationships over time. And yet at the same time, I've just reconnected with the girl I fell in love with when I was 15 years old. And it's amazing what I'm finding about love. So there's a lot to write about in the world. You just have to look at your real life, the people that surround you, and the situations that you're in, or the things that you're seeing, or the government and how it's behaving, or whatever, the people how they react to the government. Ask yourself what's really important that's going on right now, and what do you have to say, and then how would you prove it? Because it's what you're trying to prove that's important. Now, it can be proving how to make the world better, or it can just be proving this is how the world is. It doesn't have to be happy. It doesn't have to be good. But it can be. You can be saying you can cure this with that. It's great to have solutions, not just, we don't write questions. We're talking about solutions when we talk about a premise. I hope that helps a little bit. All right. Any other questions? Okay, you all. Thank you so much for all 9 of you showing up, or 8 of you plus me. Thank me for showing up. I thank me. Oh, you're welcome. Sorry. I'm a little goofy right now. Um, have a great day, and you guys know where to find me. And I'm glad you showed up. We'll do this again next week, so show up again. Good night. Good night. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Good night.